Hey everybody, here's a little another little note lecture to talk about the idea of margins. This is one of those academic concepts we're going to be looking back on over the course of the year because it's one, a really important concept, and it'll play a role in supply and demand. We'll get to that unit next time around, and it's a good thing to think about in terms of just life and decision making. So a big question with margin is, can you get too much of something? Everyone always talks about how, I want to have, everything be right, everything good happen to me, but can there be too much of a good thing? And that's the question we're trying to answer today, looking at the idea of marginal utility and the role of what's called diminishing marginal utility. Now, first, all we have to do is a couple definitions here and see. So, we talk about this idea of utility, and utility just means satisfaction. Economists needed a term to figure out what satisfaction is from somebody. And so we quantify satisfaction, what somebody gets out of going somewhere, doing something, consuming something, whatever it might be, right, as utility. So this morning I had my breakfast, I had my caffeinated beverage, I got satisfaction, I got pleasure out of that. That is my utility that I received out of consuming that food. If I'm a Netflix watcher, right, I can measure my utility I'm getting from that Netflix service, as how much satisfaction and pleasure it gives me to sit and binge watch, whatever show I'm binge watching that day. And so that is what economists will say is that we get out of these goods and services. We talked a lot about production last couple of days. Here's how the consumers get out of this whole deal. So the hard part about this is that it's not our job to explain why people get utility. Leave it to sociologists, leave it up to psychologists of why we enjoy it, right? We just say, yeah, we know people enjoy it. We're not going to get into that part. We're just going to figure out how much they enjoy it, okay? We're not trying to explain the why. The why is not what we're trying to get to here, okay? Music, right? It doesn't matter what kind of music you like. Some of you like, some of you hate it. Some people like rock, some people like country. If you like rock, maybe they may hate country too. If they like jazz, they may hate the blues. If you like polka, they may hate, I don't know. I'm not awake enough for that part, okay? Anyway, but there's given your preferences, right? Remember what you like. Say if I really love country music, and how much I like it, and my preferences, they can actually figure out, what downloads, what albums that they might purchase based off how much they like it. And over time, that like of music may change a little bit. And so we're looking at our two ideas here. One is going to be total and marginal utility, how much joy you're getting out of everything. So your total utility is your total consumption of a good. So how much pleasure are you getting from this good overall? This could mean listening to a certain song. It could mean listening to a certain band. It could be eating a certain food. All right. But question is, how much utility are you getting? Okay, and it can whatever unit good is. Okay, plays of a song, plays of an album, concerts that you go to, whatever. Right? Okay. You also have the idea of marginal utility, and this is the change in your total utility. And so this is looking at every single time I add one more to my consumption, every time I consume one more, how does my utility, how does my satisfaction, my pleasure change? So every additional episode I watch on Netflix, how does my satisfaction of that change? Every additional time I play a song, how does that change? Every time I eat another slice of pizza, and guys, you see me, I eat a lot of pizza. How does my satisfaction of that change? And that's what marginal utility comes down to. So total utility, again, the total overall satisfaction I get out of consuming that good. Marginal, how much does it change every single time I have one more? And we actually have a mathematical formula for this, okay? So your marginal utility is going to equal your total utility, right? Your total enjoyment divided by the quantity you consume. So if I consume, if my overall utility I get is 18 satisfaction points, right, if you will, okay, or 18 units of satisfaction out of 6 slices of pizza, that's what my marginal utility is. And that's what it is. So every time I have less pizza, in theory, my marginal utility goes up. And this is what comes to our law of diminishing marginal utility then. So this law basically says that there's a point where even though we're eating or consuming more of a good, amount of satisfaction we get will start declining every time we add one more. And so we'll do a couple activities in class, and I'll try explaining a couple different examples on here. But this law says that eventually, we're consuming more and more of a good, we're going to get less and less satisfaction out of it in comparison to the number of units we get. So maybe by the 100th binge watch episode of a show, you're like, yeah, I can't do this right now. I'm not enjoying this, okay? Or the 50th time you see a movie, you're like, not so much fun. Or the 100th time you hear a song, or 100th time that you play somebody's album, okay, on Amazon Music or on iTunes, you're like, I don't like it anymore. A great example is how about songs being overplayed, quote unquote. You might love it the first couple times you hear it. You're like, oh, this is a sweet song and all that kind of stuff, right? And then as the summer goes on, and that song keeps getting played over and over, you're like, yeah, this song, I don't like it anymore. That's the exact perfect example of law of diminishing marginal utility. I said pizza. I'm a big guy here. I enjoy my pizza, right? That first slice of pizza is, oh yeah, good pizza, right? By the time you get to the fourth slice, still good pizza. Maybe I don't enjoy it a little much. By the 8th or 10th slice, I'm like, oh my god, I want to die. And so that's kind of this idea that if I keep eating that pizza, I'm not going to feel as good as I did for that first slice. The first time you hear something, you get something, that's always going to be the best part, because over time that starts going to start going down a little bit for that law of diminishing marginal utility. And so the thing we have to talk about is that there must be a time period in this. So you have to look over a certain amount of time. Time A, from point A to point B, where you at. And also for marginal utility, this curve is always downward sloping. Typically, the overall slope of your curves are going downward. The more and more you get of something, this law says, you will not enjoy it as much. And obviously there are some, I also have addiction, those kind of things, but that's really about it. And so eventually this whole curve will kind of get flatter as you get down further and further down the line. We'll show you this curve in a second here. And so this utility curve that we're going to show you guys in a second, this curve we're going to graph out, will be equal to your marginal utility you're getting out of this, your total utility divided by the unit. So here's our graph here, okay? You can kind of see this curve, and follow my cursor here. Here's your quantity of units you get. Here's your marginal utility. And so you go further here, okay? The shape is always going to be, as I showed here real quick, downward sloping. As you hit here, that curve overall is going to slope downward. And that's your law. So, remember that this has to use rational behavior. I'm not going to buy something because I hate it. And that's just, assuming a rational device. I mean, I'm not sure how many of you guys buy something because you don't like it, but usually people don't do that. You're always going to buy something or get something because you get something out of it. And so that's where that whole idea of utility comes in. That's one kind of positive line we see here in terms of going forward quantity. So I said here, I like it, and get more and more utility out of it. Oh yeah, but the more I add, the more I keep doing, okay? So here's like my third piece of pizza. Boom, boom, butter's on, I'm happy. I start eating more, I start feeling sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker, and that's not good. When Halloween comes up and you're a little kid, hey, your first piece of candy, a couple first pieces of candy, you're good to go. The more you eat, and down here you feel like crap and you're puking your guts out. So that's kind of where the idea of utility comes from, that that's going to start going down the more you get. Now, total utility is a little bit different as we go back forward here. This is your total utility graph. This is the total amount of satisfaction you get out of goods. This will always be more upward sloping. But notice, here is your first time period, okay? Okay, you have your total utility over time, your quantity, that's really sharp. But now look over here, your marginal utility, this is what gets flatter right here. And that's where that part gets flatter in terms of your enjoyment of this good kind of flattening out a little bit. Here's early on, where the marginal utility takes place, that graph will flatten right out for you in terms of how much satisfaction you're getting. So if my pizza's overall is coming here, if I love, whatever it might be, over time, like, I ate like 8 days in a row, I'm not feeling the same more, okay? And you kind of see your total, I might get some enjoyment out of it first, but I'm not going to feel it as much. Total utility always has, as we see back here, this positive slope. It's always going to go up because you're always going to add up, that stuff. Remember, rational behavior. We're only going to buy something because we get enjoyment out of it. We're not going to buy something because we don't like it or cause us pain. but that slope is going to get flatter because of that law of diminishing marginal utility or marginal returns, that we don't always get as much enjoyment the more that we always have. And that's where that graph gets a lot flatter to kind of show that part. Now we understand this, we're going to try and work in class about consumer equilibrium. We're trying to figure out why we make the decisions that we make, why we buy what we buy, and all using the idea of both production we have as well as the ideas of the amount of enjoyment we're getting out of decisions. So here's an example, right? Say you drive a little Honda, maybe a Civic, nice little, reasonable, car, very sensible, but you'd rather have a Jaguar or say a Lamborghini. Now, thing is, if you want to maximize your utility, if you want to get the most enjoyment out of a car, you might get that Lamborghini. Or, for example, you want to get a truck, you want to get your big old pick-up truck versus, a little Honda Civic. Now, the problem is, you think if everyone wants to maximize your utility, they're going to get exactly what they want. Here's the problem. Can we do that? We can't, because we have limited resources. Our limited resources comes down to how much money we have. It costs a lot more. And so we have to try and weigh a good decision. If we want to invest every single little bit of money you have into a car, that's great. You'll also be living in it. And so you won't be getting as much utility out of it then. So if you want to maximize, I have to figure out, that line between the most pleasure what I got and what I can afford, what I can put into my budget, or maximize the resources that I get. We have to weigh that price of the good in your decision, so you can figure out if it fits in the exact right spot. It's apples and oranges, right? But you gotta make them comparable somehow, whether it be a Jaguar or a Lamborghini and a Honda, or a big pick-em-up truck and a Honda, whatever it might be. You gotta try and find a way to find that deal. So you gotta convert utility to utility per dollar. How much bang am I getting for my buck? And so when you do this kind of deal, where you kind of take your amount of utility you're getting divided by the price, you can figure out if I'm going to get more utility out of that than anything else. Maybe, right? You get more utility per dollar from your Honda. So A to B, so have fun in it, still hang out with your friends, drive places, whatever. You're getting a lot more bang for your buck than you might be with that Jaguar or Lamborghini or your big truck. And so that's where you take that utility and divide it by the amount of money you spend on it. Ideally, like I said, the bang for your buck is what it comes down to. We're going to mess with the idea of consumer equilibrium and how much bang you get for your buck in class on, what day is that? Probably going to be on Thursday, we're thinking. I'll talk margins a little more too and see what we think about that, find some examples. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you take some notes on this. We'll use it in class, and we'll be referring back to the idea of margins and how your enjoyment may go down, or how things change when you add one more each time. A lot over the course of this year. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. You have yourselves a wonderful day.